Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good day, everyone. On today's episode of Ahmad's Topic, I want to talk about the musical history of my life. Everybody likes a little bit of music, right? Well, in some cultures, music has been frowned upon for centuries. There is a lot of ancient knowledge as well, which perhaps I'll try to shine a light on a little bit later in this episode. I have understood that at a very early age, I have been in love with music and the way a symphonic piece can make a journey or trip feel very joyful. There are some interesting points of view about music and how it can affect our emotions and thoughts as well. So I'll begin with a bit of personal history. When I was a toddler, that's bigger, of course, than a baby being held, my mother would sometimes play classical music. You know, stuff like Beethoven and Mozart on her Lloyd's record player. This is one of the first major memories I had of listening deeply to the music and then trying to get as close as I could to the speaker to enjoy the fullness of the sound and let it carry me. Growing up, I always longed to hear the classical pieces, but it was less common that I'd get to listen to them. So much so, even growing up from a fundamentalist Christian household was similar to the lifestyle which a pious Muslim would do today. In the church, though, the music was sometimes daunting and fear instilling, and at other times happy and cheerful. Looking back at it from my perspective now, I understand why. And that conclusion is that it was designed to be that way from the beginning. When I was in elementary school, I had a great desire to learn how to play the piano. Kind of like a lot of you may have had the great desire to learn how to play a keyboard or anything similar with keys on it. The teacher didn't want to work with anyone too difficult, and so my parents said they couldn't afford it. I don't know if that was true or not, but it was the situation as we never had much of anything, and when we had something, we didn't respect it, at least for myself. I didn't even know what respect was. So later on, I began to learn how to sing, and by 10 years old, sometimes I would find myself singing in the church choir or making a special appearance in front of the church to sing a song. And at that time in my life, I loved Anne Murray, a country pop artist from Canada. To this day, I can still remember her voice. I really loved ABBA's Dancing Queen song as well. I never really knew they were British, but many other people around me inspired me to shun away from foreign-made music. It was weird, but that's how political agendas can actually have an effect on one's life choices. For a while, I tried to like country music until I got tired of the idea of smelling cattle and chickens and cleaning out a barn or something like that. I even had a pair of boots, but I quickly grew out of them. After that, it was nothing but love songs because my mom wouldn't allow my brother or I to listen to anything else. I was pretty tired of hearing the same old stuff day after day. I crept into rock by 1986 again with the British band called Europe. What's interesting is that most people here in Indonesia are familiar with the band with the song called The Final Countdown. But I didn't sing that song in public, even though I probably could have. Instead, For that next year's talent competition, I sang the song called Carrie in front of a crowd of about 350 people. And I also had many small performances for church or church camp. Throughout my childhood, I had a lot of influence from those around me. For instance, if I would have disregarded the ideas which friends imposed upon me or pressured me, I could have studied more on how to sing with soul in my voice. But I was hard headed by then, and my heart was saying one thing, and my mind was saying something entirely different. I think if I would have studied R&B or rhythm and blues, I would have surely learned how to control my voice better and make quick note changes with melodic, harmonic vibrato. When I was 10 years old, I took advantage whenever I could to pick at the piano, autodidact. I would actually read the sheet music and figure out the notes. I could not seem to coordinate both my left and right hands into playing the rhythms of the chords, so it was easy for me to give up and quit. It wasn't until many years later, after parents not buying me a guitar or musical instrument, by the time I was an older teenager, I had adopted different hobbies and activities to do. But sometimes when I'd see a guitar and get permission to play it, I had fun picking out the songs without knowing the guitar chords either. When I started learning about chords and bar chords, bar chords are the ones which you have to press most of the strings down at the same time. I soon discovered I couldn't make bar chords because of the shape of my finger. And bar chords are used in lots of different types of music, especially metal. So I gave up because buying a guitar was something that seemed too country. And I didn't want to be associated with country music scene, as I perceived that lifestyle to be somewhat lacking in everything. There's a joke that goes, if you play a country song backwards, then you'll get your house back, your kids back, your truck back, your dog back. And it had a reputation for being sad. I didn't like sad music. I liked upbeat and energetic music. I learned that depending upon music made me more dependent upon it, kind of like a circular action and reaction. It's very addictive, actually. So I began to listen to metal. Metal was very energetic to me, and I was very excited to listen to it. But it wasn't soon thereafter that I would try to play it on an instrument. After all, I didn't have an instrument except for my voice. And for metal, my voice wasn't good at all, in my own opinion. In high school, I was really deep into Guns N' Roses, among many other popular rock bands, like many of your parents were and possibly still are. I had heard about Guns N' Roses through an ABC News reporter 1 year before they were ever signed to any major record label. And I knew they were going to be signed because their vibe hit home for so many of the people that live in the city and so many people in the south part of North America, such as Texas, and country people alike. So whether people were from the city or from the country, they could relate very well to Guns N' Roses. And in high school, I also got into old school rap because it was original and I was into car audio before I had a car. I used to help others with their audio because I grew up learning about electronics and how system components or parts of a system are supposed to work with other parts. It was when I was 16 years old, my neighbor was playing an electric bass guitar and it interested me. And he even explained about the difference between some of the music that he had heard us listening to, and of course, the music that's played on a bass guitar. I'd always liked a nice sounding bass line, but I had no idea how to make one. It was around that time I also started singing bass in the school choir. I had taken choir in school since I was in middle school. Actually, since I was in elementary school, come to think of it. But I didn't start taking it seriously until I was in middle school. Mostly with the same teacher, Kelly Sprouse. He is a very talented musician who had been signed to produce a record when he was very young in his college days. But he had decided to become a teacher. I'm really thankful for him to become a teacher because I learned so much about music. Sometimes our personalities clashed though, but like I said, I'm really thankful to him for all of the years that he was my teacher, both in middle school and in high school. There was one year, my 8th grade SMP year, when he let me join the 7th grade class because I wanted to be in choir so bad, but I also had a conflicting schedule. So I did get appointed to lead often. I didn't give up on playing any instrument though later on. When I was 22 years old, I started playing bass in a church. The musician at the church showed me what to do. Those songs were very simple. So not long after that, I found an inexpensive Chinese bass for sale in a pawn shop and I bought it. I didn't even have an amplifier. So what I did instead was connected it to my car audio amplifier and I learned how to play a song, and then my mom gave me a request to play a Bon Jovi song by ear, and I learned how to do it after a few hours, and voila, I played it for her. I started trying to play anything by then, and it was not long thereafter that I bought a 5-string Ibanez bass. I believe it was in year 1998 or 99. And I lost that one on my last trip back to Indonesia because I shipped it by post instead of taking it with me. And I believe that the post lost it or shipped it back to the United States. I think I saw it on eBay for sale for $300 US. But as you know, music from different locations can make a huge difference on what the music contains and what its goal is. There's a good reason why we shouldn't listen to certain types of music. Western pop is so full of those negative types. So if you happen to hear it, let it go in one ear and out the other. Music encompasses a purpose to a large extent at first to attract people, then onward to guide the listener or listeners. Modern music is much the same. Lyrically, hip hop is probably the most accurate in terms of communicating someone's perspective of their reality through the artist's messages. So instead of relying so much on melody, it relies upon lyrical rhyme and rhythm. What's interesting about the contrast between hip hop and typical rock, country, or jazz, or any other kinds of children's music is the fact that while all of it is written in poetic form, the genre less likely to stick to any given form is hip hop. Even though most technical types of metal or rock are highly poetic and can be interpreted loosely, any communication which can be interpreted loosely is better known as using assumption and presumption. Even though hip hop is less likely to stick with any blank English rules or fill in the blank with your own language of choice, but you can pretty much obliterate, that means get rid of, the language, as long as you don't lose the point. So, whatever you do in life, let Allah be the guide to your heart, and He'll never let you down. If you let music entrap you, it can take your spirit away from you and misguide you. But in the end, Allah knows what you will do. I think it's a great idea to vocalize appreciation for what Allah gives us. So let's do that then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.